Hello, it's Lexi at Cozy Tea Cafe on Bookstagram, and I'm going to be doing an in-depth summary of the second book in the Crowns of Nyaxia series, The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. So I've already posted the first book, Serpent in the Wings of Night, and the novella that sits between the two of them, Six Scorched Roses. And then I plan on posting the next one, Songbird in the Heart of Stone, I think it's called, before the fourth book releases on August 5th. So, this is going to be an in-depth summary, full of spoilers, just kind of meant to reacquaint you with the story before the next book comes out. So if you don't want it spoiled, don't continue watching. Let's see here. We start with Rain's point of view. We get dual point of view in this book. Rain shows his final moments in the Kajari, where he sees Angelica killing Araya, and he nods up to Septimus, making a deal that would destroy his kingdom just to save Araya. He felt content to die by her blade because she deserved to win and live. Araya is still grieving her father's death, and Rain, now her husband, summons her to the throne room to meet with guests. Carissa, Keturah, Septimus, and his two bloodborne guards, Desdemona and Ilia, are in the room as they wait for Vale. Rain knows that he isn't accepted by his people as a turned former slave. Marchus, who is one of Neculai's cousins and also one of the vampires that tortured him during his slave years, shows up in his brother Simon's stead and says that he and his brother cannot bow to him as king because of his alliance with the Bloodborne and for defiling himself. It's assumed that he refers to when he was sexually assaulted under Neculai's control, and Rain reflects on the fact that Marchus held him down during these assaults. Marchus insults Araya, and Rain grabs his head and kills him using Astris. Vale walks in late and bows to Rain, swearing loyalty to him as his head of war, and this kind of diffuses the tension of him just killing a royal. Araya is escorted back to her room, and they only lock 2 of the 4 locks on her door. So while Rain is away, she picks the first lock and melts the second with Nightfire to escape. Araya stops in Vincent's study and finds a pile of broken glass, which forms a communication bowl when she pricks her finger on it. She hears Jasmine on the other end, but severs the connection abruptly when she hears Rain and Carissa coming. Rain tells Carissa to keep going, and he enters the room and tells Araya that he could smell her walking down the hall, so her attempt to escape did not work. Araya and Rain fight, and she yells at him for killing her father, and he apologizes, but says that he's trying to save lives, and a part of her understands this, but she can not forgive him or ally with him. Rain takes Araya back to her room, and she smuggles the glass shards to talk to Jasmine again. She tells Jasmine to evacuate Misrata because the Rishon and Bloodborne will attack, and she tells her to hit the armory while it's unguarded. Septimus tells Rain and Vale that they cannot attack Misrata after all because he can't get his forces there in time. Rain has a suspicion that something will happen at the armory, so he stations himself there and orders his commanders to get as many guards as possible on duty. Araya sees an explosion at the armory and escapes by knocking her guard out and riding off on horseback. She runs into Septimus, and she's unsure if he just didn't recognize her or if she let her go, which makes her suspicious. Araya arrives at the armory and goes in to help her fellow Hiaj soldiers. Rain sees Araya in the armory, and he tells her that he can't let her go, and they begin fighting. Jasmine shows up, and she's about to kill Rain, but Araya tells her to stand down and says that he is hers to kill. Rain sends Jasmine flying backwards and knocks her out. Araya then has her knife to Rain's chest, and he asks her if she'll kill him. She does nothing for a while and then closes her eyes, and Rain realizes that she won't do it. He goes to kiss her, but an arrow shoots through her arm from behind. Rain scolds the Bloodborne soldier for shooting her, and Araya mouths orders to Jasmine as she wakes up, telling her to retreat before she passes out. Araya wakes up to Rain healing her wounds, and he brings her to see Septimus in the throne room, who has the glass shards with him. Araya realizes that all of this was a trick to see if she could use Vincent's magic, and now they plan to use her and her blood to spy on the Hiaj soldiers. Septimus believes that Vincent knew of and had access to some portion of Alaris's godblood, and they want to use Araya to find it. Rain flies Araya to his apartment in the Human Districts and gives her Vincent's sword, the Taker of Hearts. The sword was legendary and enhanced his power, but only he could wield it. Rain asks if Araya could wield it because she has some of his blood, and he admits that she was right and says that Septimus is preying on them both. Rain asks Araya to ally with him and take Septimus and the Bloodborne down. Araya realizes that Rain didn't know about the trap with the glass shards, the armory attack, or the god's blood, and he needs Araya's help to find the god's blood first to use it against Septimus. He says that she's free to do whatever she wants if she agrees to help him, and she agrees. Misha arrives, and Rain tells her everything that's happened. Rain tells Araya that Misha will be her new bodyguard since she is loyal to both Rain and Araya and she can be trusted. Septimus suggests that they go to Lahore, Vincent's homeland, to look for any signs of the god's blood. They arrive at Lahore and meet Vincent's cousin, Lady Evelina, who welcomes them into her home and brings them into the dining room where some live humans are placed on the table for a feast. Rain bites into one of the humans' necks to give her a quick death so she doesn't suffer, and they see that Evelina has turned children, meaning that these kids will never age physically or mentally, and this is highly looked down upon. Evelina guides Rain and Araya to Vincent's old belongings as she recounts the night that Vincent killed their whole family. She was just a child and he stabbed her through the heart, but says that the mother chose her to live. She says it's strange that he let Araya live as his offspring when so many other of their family members died. Rain and Araya sneak out into the city, and he says that he should have known Araya was a vampire because of her love of flying. He tells her that wings are conjured, and says that he has a theory that she probably has the ability to conjure them, and then he pushes her out of the window. Araya conjures wings, then crashes and passes out. She has a flashback of Vincent and grapples with her grief, love, and anger at him. She wakes up and sees featherless Hiaj wings behind her, and she realizes that Vincent knew that she could conjure these wings, and that's why he never flew with her. Rain thinks Vincent feared her because he knew that she was his heir, but he didn't want to give her up because he loved her, and love makes people afraid. Araya sends Rain away and flies off to a familiar-looking rooftop. She sees a set of wings with a pulsating fungus and a crescent moon pendant in the middle, and she thinks that this is exactly what they're looking for. When she touches the pendant, she's transported into a vision of her father after killing his family, and she sees that the wings are Vincent's father's. Evelina is behind her despite being burned from the early sun, and she says that she's been trying to access that pendant for ages, and then she lunges for her. After Araya doesn't come back, Misha and Rain start to worry and they go looking for her. Araya wakes up in a cellar with her hands tied and her wings nailed to the wall. Evelina has Vincent's sword wrapped in a cloth because she can't wield it. She tells Araya that she was supposed to be heir, and Araya tries to calm her down by saying that she'll transfer ownership of the sword to her. When Araya finishes pretending to transfer the sword's power to her, she tells Evelina to grab the hilt, and then when the magic overtakes her, Araya grabs the sword back, rips her wings free, and then uses Nightfire to burn the room. She kills Evelina, and the vampire children start attacking her as Rain explodes into the room. Araya wakes up days later, and Rain dresses her wing wounds, which leads to a brief intimate moment between the two of them, and she tells him that every night she has dreams of him making her kill him, and then Misha interrupts this conversation. Vale writes to Rain and tells him that the Rishan nobles are refusing to send troops. Rain decides to go back early to do some damage control and asks Misha to stay with Araya while she heals. Araya and Misha haven't heard from Rain, so they decide to head to Sivranaj. Rain tells Vale and Lilith that he wants to put on a wedding celebration in their honor, so the Rishan nobles will attend and he can speak to them. Rain walks Lilith back to her room and tells her that he can help her if she's in a bad situation. She assures Rain that Vale turned her to save her life and says that he treats her with nothing but respect and affection. Araya goes to blow off steam in the human districts, but she doesn't see any vampires around. She goes to a pub for a beer, and Rain joins her there and tells her that he's been enforcing the no hunting rule on vampires in the human districts. A human recognizes him and starts to cause a scene, so they quickly leave. Rain tells Araya his true plans for the wedding celebration and says that the Shadowborn king, Simon, hates the House of Blood as much as they do, and he wants to form an alliance with him when he attends the wedding. He thinks that there's a traitor within his circle because the Rishan rebels know more than they should, and he suspects that it's Vale. Rain says if Araya helps him secure his alliances at the wedding, then she's free. Araya runs into Septimus, and he tells her a story of the House of Blood. The king and queen saw a seer that told them that their son would either save the House of Blood or end it. Their son, the prince, took up the mantle and tracked Nyaxia down to complete trials and prove their loyalty, but she killed him instead. The prince was Septimus's brother, and now he's the last son alive, which makes him their last resort. Septimus says his bet has always been on her and subtly gives her an offer for the crown of the House of Night, but she declines and says that she wouldn't betray Rain. Simon Viserys arrives at the wedding celebration and asks Araya to dance, and she tries to evade him, but he grabs her. Rain interrupts and takes Araya to dance. When they're done, Araya notices Rain swaying and tries to follow him, but she loses him in the crowd. Rain feels dizzy as he walks off, and Carissa tells him that he knows Araya is more than a prisoner to him and says that he can't go back to the way things were. Rain realizes that Carissa has poisoned him and betrayed him, and he sees soldiers pouring in around him. He tries to fight them off as he loses consciousness. Araya senses that something is wrong, and Septimus approaches her and grabs her arm, accidentally cutting her. She sees Simon and his wife sneaking out of the room and follows after them. Septimus follows her too and confronts her, telling her that she could have had everything. Then he uses blood magic with the cut that he opened on her arm, and she's unable to move. Araya looks on as bloodborne soldiers start to turn on the Rishan, and then she passes out. Araya regains consciousness as Desdemona and another man try to remove her blades. She stabs the man and uses Nightfire on Desdemona, killing them both. She grabs Vincent's magic sword, which summons her wings and ignites the sword with Nightfire. Araya takes the hidden tunnels and finds Rain strung up on a higher level, surrounded by Rishan soldiers. She fights them with Vale's sword and kills them. Rain tells Araya that Carissa was the traitor, and she unchains him and takes the nails out of his wings and body. They hear more soldiers headed for them, so she grabs him and flies him away as the sun starts to rise. Araya gets Rain to the apartment in the human districts, and the doorman helps them inside. He says that the people in the districts thank them for what they're doing. Rain gives Araya a folded-up photo of her mother that Vincent drew. Rain had gone through Vincent's records looking for information on her mother. He found a letter with her name and address and learned that she lived in the castle for about a year, and he believed that she was a sorceress of Acacia, goddess of the unknown and weaver of fates, and he suspects that that has something to do with Vincent's search for the god's blood. Rain gives her a pouch of gold and tells her that a man is waiting to take her to the human nations, so she'll be safe and can practice her magic in peace. Araya knows that Rain has no allies and she's the only way to keep the throne, so she chooses to stay and they sleep together and she drinks his blood. Rain took the glass shard communication device from the castle, and Araya assures them that they can trust Jasmine. They contact her and plan to attack the castle and use the element of surprise to their advantage. Araya and Rain sneak into the castle through the sewer tunnels and split up. Araya fights guards outside her old room and enters to find Misha. Araya asks why she's not in the dungeons, and she evades the question. Araya can't find Vincent's pendant, so she leaves with Misha and they run into a Shadowborn prince. Misha attacks and kills the prince and reveals that he was the vampire that turned her as a teenager. They find Rain and release Vale, Lilith, and Keturah from the cells and fly off to meet with Jasmine. Jasmine doesn't have enough soldiers to take Severnage back forcefully. Rain suggests merging the loyal Rishan forces with the remaining Hiyaj, and Jasmine is hesitant to help Rain, but Araya assures her that they will reclaim the throne together and rule as a united front, which shocks everyone, including Rain. Vale expresses his loyalty to Rain and apologizes for not stopping his abuse under Neculi. Vale says that himself and others wouldn't have to fear for that kind of treatment under Rain's rule, and Rain assures him that if he were to fall, Araya would be just as good of a ruler as he would be. Rain confronts Misha about why she's been avoiding him, and she tells him about the prince that she killed and reveals that it was the vampire that turned her. He apologizes for not killing him first, and then says that he's sorry for bringing him to the castle in the first place, and says that he'll protect her. The Hiyaj and Rishan forces head to Severnage, and they plan on having Vale's forces attack from the sea, splitting Simon and Septimus's forces. Then they'll have the Rishan and Hiyaj attack from the sky, while Araya and Jasmine bring an army through the tunnels into the castle. The tunnels are eerily quiet, and Araya and Jasmine start to hear booming above and think that something is wrong. Rain sees Simon standing on the balcony of the castle and attacks him, but sees that his eyes are vacant. Rain realizes that Simon has Vincent's pendant melted down in his chest, along with the god's teeth that Septimus found in the House of Blood embedded into his chest. Simon's body then erupts with power and knocks Rain back as Araya flies for him. Araya stabs Simon through the chest with Vincent's sword, but it doesn't seem to faze him. Araya is pushed off the balcony in a blast of magic, and Rain dives after her and grabs her while telling Vale to retreat. He doesn't know where to go, so he flies to the town of Vartana from Vincent's 20-year-old letter and shouts for someone named Alia. An older woman approaches and says that she's Alia and knows exactly who they are. They wake up healed, and Araya meets Alia, who is her aunt. Alia tells her that her sister fell in love with Vincent, and he looked at her like he loved her too, but he looked at their family like they were nothing and less than him. Her mother, Alana, left him when she became pregnant and came to live with Alia, and she told Vincent never to come after them. Alana married a man named Alholm, and she was scared that Vincent would come after them if he found out, so she relocated to Salinae to be further from him. Alia gives Araya a bracelet that matches her ring and necklace. When Araya puts the bracelet on and the set is complete, she sees that a map has been inked onto the back of her hand. Alia recognizes the magic as her sister's sorceress work and expects that her mother enchanted the jewelry to guide Araya to something. The map leads them right by Sivernage, so Rain tells Vale to rally the remaining forces and meet Simon's army to distract them, while Araya follows the map with hopes that it leads her to something powerful enough to stop them. Alia introduces Rain and Araya to her husband Jace and her friend. They thank Rain for his commitment to protecting the humans and say that they will provide forces if he promises to continue protecting them as king. Vincent's magic sword, the Taker of Hearts, was destroyed in battle, so Alia's husband and friend forged the sword into 2 magical dual blades at Araya's request. Araya and Rain follow the map as the vampire and human armies ready to meet Simon's forces. Araya reaches the end of the map, touches a slab, and slips into a vision of Vincent as a tunnel appears. She tells Rain that she has to enter on her own. Araya hears Vincent's voice in her head tell her that she doesn't want to see what's down there, but she continues down the tunnel. In a stone room, she sees carvings covering the walls that remind her of her mother's notes. A column seems to call to her, so she cuts her hand and places it on the stone, and the magic sweeps her away. Araya is transported into Vincent's memory of her mother weaving spells within this cave to protect a great weapon. In the memory, she tells Vincent to spill his blood on the stone and think of a part of himself that the magic can latch onto. Araya realizes that the walls are a series of locks, and she bleeds onto the next one and sees another memory. She sees Vincent after her mother Alana left him, and he grapples with anger, grief, shame, and regret for the things that he said to her, but also for feeling this way over a human woman. He also thinks back to an enemy queen, presumably Nezanine, and feels regret that he didn't spare her after she showed him so much kindness. Araya continues and sees a hallucination of Vincent, who says that he put so much of his soul into this room. Araya confronts him about all of the mixed emotions she's felt after his death, and he tells her that the last lock was weaved by a different sorceress after her mother left, and he tells her to look at that memory. When she touches the final lock, she sees Vincent in Salinae after it's been destroyed. Vincent didn't go there to kill Alana, he came to kill Araya, but when he found her, he loved her so much and he couldn't imagine ever hurting her, and it scared him to know that she could be his downfall. The final pillar opens and reveals a vial of Alaris' blood. The hallucination of Vincent tells her to drink it or put it on her blade, and it will make her powerful enough to defeat her enemies. She knows that he's not real, but she tells him that she loves him anyway and says one final goodbye before she leaves. Meanwhile, Rain has been fighting with Simon, and he rips the pendant out of Simon's chest, and they fall to the floor. Rain and Simon continue fighting, and both of them are really badly wounded when Rain stabs him through the stomach. Rain has also been stabbed, and he passes out, and Araya arrives and tries to keep him from dying by feeding him her blood, but nothing is working. She contemplates using the god's blood to destroy all of their enemies, but she knows that that would only lead to more destruction. Araya calls upon Nyaxia to give her an offer of her husband's blood in exchange for something. So Nyaxia shows up, and she's furious when she sees that Simon is wearing pieces of her dead lover. Araya offers the blood to Nyaxia in exchange for a Coriatis bond with Rain to save him. Nyaxia refuses to grant the bond because it would merge their hearts and souls and erase the Hiaj and Rishon legacies, and Nyaxia has no desire to end the unrest between them because it puts her in power above all of them. Araya asks how she can save him, and Nyaxia says that a Coriatis bond would save him, but she can't be the one to give it, and she leaves. Araya realizes that she also has her mother's blood in her veins, who was an acolyte of Acacia, so she calls on the goddess on behalf of her mother. Acacia appears and Araya begs for a Coriatis bond. After deliberation, the goddess accepts, but says that Nyaxia won't be happy, and she will act against them one day. Araya wakes up and finds Rain alive and healed with a matching air mark on his neck. A part of their souls are now merged, and they have an awareness of each other's bodies and feelings. Araya also has Rain's air mark on her back, and they officially ended their airlines and altered the House of Night forever. They meet with Jasmine, Vale, Lilith, Misha, and Keturah, and learn that Septimus disappeared into hiding. The Bloodborne soldiers retreated when they saw Nyaxia and saw Septimus flee, and all of the fighting stopped. Rain and Araya go to see Carissa in the dungeons, and Rain says that he won't kill him because he might be useful to him one day. Carissa thanks him and says that Septimus isn't done. He can sense that he has something big planned. Weeks later, after the rebellion has been shut down and the traitors were captured, Rain and Araya host a Lunar New Year festival to give offerings to Nyaxia. As king and queen, they gift Nyaxia with wine for abundance, the bone of an enemy, Simon's, for protection, and their blood for eternal loyalty. Rain talks to Misha, and she says that she's going away for a while. Rain tells her that she doesn't need to worry about the House of Shadow retaliating against her, and she can stay if she wants to. But Misha says that she isn't meant to stay still. There is also a bonus chapter in this book. It just shows Rain and Araya enter into the tunnel room that her parents created, and they return the broken shards of Vincent's pendant that they collected from Simon's body. They touch the stone and give their memories to seal the power of the pendants away. That is the end of the second book, the end of that Nightborn Duology. The next book is the start of the Shadowborn Duology, which is Misha's story, and then the second book in that duology, the fourth book overall, is coming out August 5th, and I will hopefully have my last review or last summary posted before that comes out, so hang in with me. And if you have any recommendations for books that you would like me to summarize in the future, just leave me a comment and I'll do my best to get to it. But thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.